All right, so we're live. So if everybody wants to go to page 7-24 in your textbook, and we'll just start there. So you'll see the tools needed on that first page. Basically, the SolidWorks tools that we'll be using are Sketch, obviously. We always use that pretty much. Geometric relations, a revolved cut, which is like a revolve, but you're cutting. So it's kind of like the difference between an extrude and an extruded cut. A revolved cut is kind of the opposite of a revolve, if that makes sense. Um, we're going to use the circular pattern tool, um, which I just talked about a little bit, but that's creating a circular pattern on a revolved object typically. And you can kind of see what I'm talking about if you look at the picture of the actual part that we're going to be modeling on that first page. You can see all those little tabs sticking out of it. That's what we're going to pattern. So we're going to draw one of those tabs with it's like a little tab with a hole in it. We're going to draw one of those, and then we're just going to make it a pattern so it just basically copies all the way around. So you have 6 of them. We're going to use dynamic mirroring and revolved boss base, which is, we've done that a little bit, and fillets. So, 724. So chapter 7, page 24 of that chapter. Alright, my SolidWorks is being kind of slow on the uptake here today. Oops. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you'll have to come in and pick it up, and I'll let you know. I'm going to try to 3D print. I haven't gone over your assignments yet, so for this week, because they're not due until midnight. So I will try to 3D print everything that is fully defined and printable, so a size that'll fit in the printer. Um, and I'll let you know if I'm printing your part. I'll let you know if I'm not printing your part as well and why. So if you want it printed, you can modify it. And yeah, hopefully I'll be able to do that within the next week or two. 3D printing takes a really long time. Like, for a like 5 by 5 inch part, it takes all night pretty much. So I'll start the print and then those parts I'll have them ready for you like within a couple days after that. But since I'm only here 2 days a week, we'll have to kind of figure out the timing there. But I'll keep you all posted on that. All right. Any other questions before we start? Anyone? No? Okay. All right, so we're going to start a new sketch. So you're going to click your sketch tab up here in the upper left corner and go ahead and click that sketch button. And actually, let's X out of there quick. Let's change our units. I actually remembered this time before we got too far into it. So we're doing this in inches. And then we're going to start a sketch on the front plane. So just go ahead and click your front plane there. And then we're going to sketch the profile that's shown on page 725 here. So the book just shows the shape. It doesn't really give a lot of detailed instructions. So we're just going to start with a line. We're going to start on the origin. It tells you, I think it tells you where the origin is. Yeah, it doesn't really say specifically, but we can assume that it's that bottom left corner. It kind of looks like that's where it is. So you're going to go straight up. And then that top part actually is an arc. It's kind of a big arc, but you can see that it's got a dimension, which is a radius. So if something looks like you're not sure if it's a straight line or an arc, just look at the dimension on it. If it's a radius, then it's an arc. If it's just like a length, then it's going to be a straight line. So we're going to go over a little bit. Oops. Now we're going to do another arc going down. And this one's going to end up being tangent to that bottom line, but we'll just add that relation in after we draw it. And then end your shape back at the origin. Does everyone have that so far? Anyone stuck? Cool. Alright, anybody else have questions? Okay. Yeah, whatever works best for you. I'm gonna try and take my time here, but let me know if you are stuck, and I'll stop and help because don't want to lose anyone. Alright, so we're gonna add a relation here. We've got that line selected already. You can see it's light blue, which means it's selected, and we're gonna click on this line here as well. And then we're just gonna click the tangent relation there and see how that changed the shape. It makes it look more like the one in the book there. So click OK. And then I think we can just start dimensioning. I don't see any other relations on there other than one that is a relation to a dimension. So we're going to start with this one. So that's going to be 1.25. And then this radius here is okay, it says this is actually a reference dimension, so don't add it yet if you see that in the book, so I'm not going to add a dimension there. So this one has a radius of 0.5. And so this bottom dimension here, this is an interesting one, and this is kind of a cool thing you can do. It says hold the shift key down when adding this dimension. So you're actually not dimensioning that line. If you look closely at it, it goes from one end of the line all the way to the edge of that arc there, basically the furthest edge of the arc. So you're going to want to the book says hold the shift key, I think, and that's what enables you to add the dimension not to the line but to the edge of this arc here, which it's kind of a weird way to do it, but we're going to go ahead and do that. So I'm holding down the shift key and I'm going to click this end point of this line, which also happens to be the origin, and then I'm going to click this arc here, and then we can go straight down here, and we actually want that dimension to be 2, not 2.5. Yes, that's correct. So yeah, we hold the shift key down from when we click the origin. We keep holding it until we do the second click. Is that working for everyone? All right. So if everyone's got that, the last thing we're going to do is we're going to add a relation. So this is the center point. If this big arc up top here were a full circle, this point here is the center point of that circle, basically. And we want to make that point vertical to the origin. So we want it to be directly below the origin on that. I guess that's the y-axis. The up and down axis. So we're going to add a relation here. We're going to click on the origin, and then we're also going to click that center point down below it. You might have to zoom out in order to see that point, and then we're going to make it vertical. And at this point, your sketch should be fully defined. Is everyone still with me? Okay. All right. Okay, so if everybody who's able to sketch this is still with me, I'm going to go ahead and go to the next step. So we're going to go over to the Features tab, and we're going to do Revolved Boss Base. Oh, actually, I skipped one step. We're going to go back to the Sketch tab here. We're going to do a center line because we need something to revolve around. So the center line starts at the origin and goes straight up. You can see it extending above the top of your shape there in the book. So we want it to look just like that. All right. And make sure I didn't miss anything else. So we're going to go over to the Features tab, and we're going to do Revolved Boss Base, and it should turn into a big, kind of looks like a donut without a hole in the middle, or I don't know, something like a round pillow. It's just this big blob here, so it's going to look like that. And if it doesn't, make sure your instructions over here on the left. So your axis of revolution, it should automatically select that center line because that's the only possible axis of revolution. It's the only center line you put in this sketch. And then the direction is going to be blind, which means that it just revolves all the way around that center line 360 degrees. And that should be all you've got over there. So once you have all those filled in correctly, click OK, and you'll have this sort of alien spaceship looking thing. Yeah, there you go. It's like those little, the little baby bell cheeses with the wax on them. Alright, so we're going to flip to the next page, and we're going to select the top plane and start a new sketch. So go over to your feature manager tree on the left here, and you're going to click top plane. And it's easiest if you do the normal to command so that you're looking straight down on your little cheese here. And then we're going to go to the sketch tab and just start a new sketch on the top plane. If you just click sketch with the top plane selected, it'll automatically start your sketch in the top plane. And then we're going to sketch the profile shown on this page. And that's basically, you're going to do a center line, again starting from the origin. Let's start with a center line this time. And that's just going to extend off to the right a ways. It's going to be, you want it to be horizontal. So the way you can tell it's horizontal is you get this little yellow, if you can see that little yellow square with the horizontal symbol in it, it's that little horizontal line. That should be right next to your little pencil there. And also the angle should be 180 degrees showing next to your pencil. So you want to make sure that those are showing when you do your second click to end the line. And then alright, let me make sure that I get this right here. So, if you see this this circle here, this is kind of where the one arc from the first sketch, where it ends and the second arc begins. That's that that circle. When I hover over it, it turns orange. So we're going to use that a little bit. Oops, I didn't mean to right-click it. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to start with a line, and we're going to start on that circle here. Oops. And I always start this wrong. So there's a trick to it. We're gonna use the convert entities tool. And what this does, if you click convert entities and then you click on something, it actually makes it a component of the sketch that you're in. So right now that circle is from our first sketch. We want to make that circle an actual circle in our new sketch here. So we're going to do convert entities. We're going to click that circle, edge 1, and click OK. And now you can see that it's actually a black line. It's a circle in our sketch. And this little symbol here, this is the relation, which says that that circle is on the edge of that first arc from the first sketch. I know this is it's a little confusing to follow. It's a little confusing to actually explain, but essentially, you just made a new circle, and it's fully defined because it's right on top of that pre-existing circle. All right. So now we're gonna select the line tool. Now let's start right here, and let's end it when we get to that circle, like so. And then we're going to do a second one. Actually, let's see. Okay, we're not actually going to, we're going to do an arc. So we're just going to click here. Hang on, sorry guys, I haven't done this one in a while. I think we want tangent arc. Alright, yeah, that's what we want. So we're going to do, it's going to turn out looking like kind of a light bulb shape. You can see in the book what it looks like, but we're going to do one little arc here, and then we're going to do a bigger arc here, and we're going to end it right on the center line here. Okay. And this doesn't look exactly like the book, but that's okay. We're going to dimension it in a minute here. So, if they aren't automatically, and mine were because I used the tangent arc tool, but you need to make sure you have this tangent symbol here and here. They both need to be tangent to the adjacent component. So this arc needs to be tangent to this arc, and then this arc needs to be tangent to this line. Alright, and then we are going to do mirror entities. We're going to select all 3 components that you just drew. And then in the mirror about box, so click on that box there, and you want to click this center line here. And it'll mirror them to the other side. Does everyone have that? Okay. Alright, tell me to slow down if you need me to. Okay, so now we should have a full light bulb shape here, and then we're going to trim away the extra of this circle that we created in the first step, because actually all we want is this little segment here to close in this light bulb shape. So we're going to use the trim entities tool, and we're just going to do trim to closest, which is this last one. So click that. It should already be gray. If it's not gray, then click on it. And then we're going to click this circle here. And then it'll trim away everything except for this segment here. So make sure where you click is somewhere on the outside of the circle, outside of your light bulb shape. Don't click in the middle here. Then we'll click OK. Oops. And now we want to dimension our shape here. So the distance between these 2 lines is going to be 0.5. So let's use a Smart Dimension tool. Click both lines and come over here. We'll go 0.5. This big outside arc here should be 0.575. And then actually one thing I want to do as well, because we didn't actually define this, is we're going to add a relation, and we're going to make sure that this segment of arc here is tangent to the one mirroring it. Did everyone see what I did there? So the two big arcs, the one above that center line and the one below, are tangent to each other. That doesn't automatically happen when you mirror the two. Okay. So a couple more things. The center of this this sort of circle here, or the center of the two big arcs that we mirrored, should be right on this this center line, and we just have to define how close that is to the origin, because it should be 2.5 inches from the origin. However, before we do that, let's see. Because we also need to define the radius of these tiny arcs here. You can see when I kind of moved it around, those two little arcs almost sort of just went away. We don't want to lose those. I'm just going to like drag this around a little to kind of keep them. All right. So let's dimension. So this center point here to the origin is going to be 2.5. Let's see if this messes everything up. Not really. Okay. So these little arcs here. Oops. We can kind of. Okay. So everything. Let's see. The book says add the R.25 after the sketch is fully defined. And we have everything defined except for that. I don't remember why they tell you to do that, but I'm just going to go ahead and dimension that now, and maybe we'll see why we're not supposed to. All right. And they actually put the dimension on the top one, but it doesn't matter since they're mirrors of each other. Either one you dimension, the other one will be the same. So 0.25. There we go. And now the sketch is fully defined, so I think we're good to go here. And if you look at your picture from the side, you can see that that sketch is on the top plane. So it actually is kind of at the bottom of your shape here, your donut, cheese, whatever you want to call it. So we're going to extrude this shape. And let's see. You know what we did? I used the wrong circle. I've done this before. So see how this arc, see how it doesn't quite connect to your shape? So when we extrude this, we're actually going to end up with a gap. We actually want it to go right to this circle here on the bottom, which I kind of messed that up. So let's fix that really quick. I'm just going to delete, oops, I've got the dimension tool on. So let's delete that line. And then what we're going to do is we're actually going to convert this circle on the bottom. So we're going to do this again, convert entities. Click that circle. You don't have to select either option here. Just click OK. Now our sketch is underdefined because these ends of these lines are not attached to anything. So like these lines could be any length here. We just don't know. So let's go back to sketch 2 and go normal 2 so we can see what we're doing. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do add relation. We're going to select this point. We only have to do one of them because again they're mirrored. So whatever you do to one will happen to the other. So we're going to select that point there. We're going to select this new circle that we just made. And we're going to go coincident. Now our sketch is fully defined, so now we just have to trim away the extra of that circle there. So we'll go trim entities, trim to closest should be selected, and just click on somewhere on that circle. There we go. So now we're fully defined and our light bulb thing actually meets up with our donut thing here. So now we can extrude our little light bulb. Is everyone with me still? Any questions? No questions. All right. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and go to features, and we're going to do extruded boss base. So we're going to extrude from sketch plane. Direction is going to be up to surface, which we haven't used yet. So we're going to go up to surface. And in the second box here, I guess we're not putting anything in that first box. In the second box, we're going to put face 1, or the top face of our donut. So just click on that top. See how when you hover over it, the circle surrounding it turns orange? So hover over that top face and click on it, and you should see your little light bulb extrude up to that surface. So it'll actually continue the shape of that arc. And we want merge result checked. And we can click OK. Does anyone have questions about that? I'm sorry, what was that?
Well, it's got, the little half-inch dive off at the end there. Why does it not just dive all the way down to the bottom plate?
Oh, well, so that's the outline of our sketch that we just did. If you look at it from the top, it's only going to go to the outline here. So that's why it kind of cuts off right there. Does that answer your question?
No, why wouldn't it go to a point where the two circles of the light bulb meet up instead of having that riser? I guess there's no measurement there.
I'm not quite sure what you're asking. Sorry.
Well, so where the two circles just got extruded, the light bulb,
Mhm.
there's the quarter-inch plus rise from the flat plane one, that the first one you did before you extruded it. How does with no measurement there, why doesn't it just completely, like the tops of the two light bulbs, why don't they just go to a point?
Do you mean like so this face doesn't come all the way down to the bottom?
Correct.
Okay, yeah. So that's because this face is actually just a continuation of this arc. So it does technically have a measurement. It's got the same radius as this arc up top here. And so it's not going to curve any more than that radius. So when it hits the edge of the sketch here that we drew, when it hits the end of the light bulb, it just ends. It's not going to keep curving down Does that kind of answer?
Yeah, it's easier to see now on page 727 at the top with the just the side view, not the angle drawing.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, it's sometimes like the spatial stuff in here gets a little, you're looking at it and you're like, wow, how does it know to do that? But there's always an answer. Everything is always defined as long as you fully define it. It's just yeah, sometimes with these slightly more complex shapes it gets a little confusing. So, all right, so we're going to click OK and we'll have this extruded little shape here. And then we are going to add a counterbore hole to our shape. So this part is tricky, and if you can, even if you're not with me up to this point, I encourage you to follow along with this because it's a little bit of a, um, what's the word? It's kind of a funky way to do a sketch. So it's good to know how we're doing it. So we're going to sketch the profile of the counterbore on the front plane. So this part so far is simple. We click front plane, normal to, and let's go to our sketch tab and click sketch. Now let's kind of zoom in over here. So our origin is all the way over here. So we're not actually starting anywhere near the origin with this one, but we're going to start on this bottom face of our part. Let's see. And there's a specific point where we want to start. So if you hover over this, let's actually start with our line tool. So click the line tool, hover over that bottom line there, and you should be able to get the midpoint here. So you're going to click on that. See how I have a tiny little orange dot? It might be kind of hard to see, but if you hover over this line, you'll see a little yellow or orange dot show up, and you want to click right on that to start the first line. All right. And we're going to go straight up. I'm just making sure I got this right. And over. Then we're going to go down. Oops. That was a mistake. My mouse jumped on me. Alright, so we're going to go down to somewhere down here to the right a little to kind of cut in. And that's going to be our counter bore. We're going to go down to that bottom line. We're going to click there and we're going to go straight over and close the shape. Does everyone have that? Alright. And then we also want to center line on the right side of that shape we just sketched. So we're going to use our center line tool. We're going to start up here. We're going to go straight down to that first point. All right. So now we're going to dimension this, and this is where it kind of gets funky. We're actually adding a virtual diameter, which basically we're going to revolve this shape. We're going to do a revolved cut to make a hole. So when you look at it from the top, this line right here is actually going to be the radius of the hole that we make because we're going to revolve it all the way around. So our virtual diameter is going to be from here to an equidistant point on the other side of our center line. So that's it's a little confusing, but you'll see what I mean in a second. Let's go back to our shape here. Let's go back and do normal too so we can see what we're looking at. Zoom in a little. Alright, so let's do that dimension last. So we're going to do smart dimension. And this is going to be 0.5. And then the overall height, so this other line here is going to be 0.8. And then the virtual diameter dimension. So the book describes how to do it. To create a virtual diameter dimension, first click the center line, then select any other entity and place the dimension on the other side of the center line. So that's a little confusing, but first we're going to click the center line, and then we're going to click the line that we want to dimension from. So that's going to be, first we're going to do this outside one here, and then when we go over here, so if you look here, you can see the radius would be of the circle would be 0.19. Over here, it doubles. It becomes 0.38 because it's actually the diameter. So that's how you make a virtual diameter. I'm going to go ahead and click right here, and we're actually going to make that 0.625. So it gets a little wider there. And then we're going to do the same thing with the bottom line there. So we're going to click our center line, and then our bottom line, and we're going to just come right over to the other side of the center line to make the virtual diameter. And that's going to be 0.375. And now your sketch should be fully defined. Let's see. We should have that midpoint. That should be on that midpoint there. So we'll see when we revolve it if it actually ends up in the center of our light bulb. And this is where we do the revolved cut. We're going to go over to features, and we're going to do revolved cut here, which is kind of next to extruded cut. And it should automatically figure out what you want to do here because you've, again, only got one center line to go off of. So the axis of revolution is going to be that center line that you just drew. Direction is blind. We're going to go 360 degrees, and it'll revolve the sketch you just drew here. So I'm going to click OK. And then if you look at it from the top down, you should see a counterbore hole in the middle of your light bulb. Does everyone have that? All right. Cool. All right. Any questions so far? Kind of looks like a turtle now. It's keeps changing what I think this shape looks like. All right. So now we're going to do the circular pattern, and this is kind of the fun part here. So let's see. So we should be on page 7-28, step 7. We're going to go to the circular pattern, which is below linear pattern here. So if you are in your features tab, go over to linear pattern, use that little down arrow and click circular pattern. Now we're going to go, let's see, we need to go and make a temporary axis to pattern around. So we're going to go to the view up here at the top. We've got file, edit, then view, and we're going to go to hide show. And let's select temporary axes, and it'll show all those center lines that you used when you were doing your other sketches. So you should see this middle center line show up here from your first sketch. You can just go out of that. Once you click that, those will stay visible until you go back in and make them invisible. So our direction is going to be around that first middle axis there. And now you can see that our counterbore hole is showing up because that's what we've got selected right now. Cut revolve 1 in features and faces to revolve. So we actually want to add to that. We want to show that whole little light bulb turtle head thing. So we're going to go to our, you can see in your upper left corner you've got your tree here. Just click the down arrow so you can see all the components that you've drawn. And go to, let's see, boss extrude 1, I believe? Yeah. Yep, that's what you want. So make sure boss extrude 1 and cut revolve 1 are showing up here in this box. And let's see. The pattern angle should be 360, which just means that it goes all the way around. And the spacing, let's see, does it tell us? We want equal spacing. The book actually, because we have a newer version of SolidWorks, every once in a while you'll see something where it doesn't look quite the same. So in the book, there's just a checkbox with equal spacing, and you want that checked. Here you've got two options. You can do instance spacing, or you can do equal spacing, and we want to make sure we've selected equal spacing. And then we want 6 instances. And then you've got your 2 features to pattern here, your cut revolve and your boss extrude. And then we can click OK. And there we go. Pretty cool, huh? Is everyone following along? Everyone completely lost? Okay. Well, if you can follow along, I'd love it if you would, because now is the time to ask any questions that you have. Um, I know it can be kind of tricky, but you know, I'd rather have things move slower and have people asking me questions than everybody just zone out. So, all right. So the next step here, we're going to create a new plane. We haven't done this before, but this is something called reference geometry. So you can create planes. So SolidWorks obviously gives you 3 planes to start out. It's like your X, Y, and Z from geometry, your front, top, and right plane. But you can create another plane wherever you want. It can be angled, it can be offset from a plane, it can be anywhere in space. You just have to make sure that it is fully defined like anything else. So if your plane is just floating out there somewhere in space, it's not going to work. You want to make sure that you know exactly where it is. So you would say it's going to be offset from, say, your front plane by 2 inches. But otherwise, you can put a plane wherever you want as long as you define it. So we're going to do that in order to create a sketch to draw these pockets, which these pockets are always difficult. There's something funky here in the book with how they have you do it, and I never am really able to get them to work. But we're going to try just so you can see how to make that plane. So on page 728, step 8, we're going to do insert reference geometry. So in your features tab here, again, you're going to go over to reference geometry. You're going to click that little down arrow and you're going to select plane. So you can see in here you can also add an axis, a coordinate system. So this is basically like you can put in a whole new origin somewhere in space. Again, these always have to be defined. So if you do a new coordinate system, you have to define where it is in relation to your original coordinate system or your origin. Um, so all this stuff, is super useful because it gives you a lot of flexibility. Like, I want to draw something on a plane, but there is no plane over here. Well, I can just create one. So, but again, you always have to define it. So right now we're going to do a plane. And the first reference point, so this is how you define your plane basically. Um, you're going to put the top plane for your first reference. And then it's going to be parallel, I believe. Let's see. Oh, no, we want offset distance, which is actually this last option. So it technically is parallel to the top plane, but that's not the option we want. We want offset distance, and then we're going to put how far we want to offset it in this box. So we want 1.3 inches. And you should be able to see that plane floating up above your shape here. So if you look at it from the side, see this new plane is up here above your, I don't know what to call it now, your blob, your spaceship. Um, so this is your top plane down here, and here's your new one. Alright, and I think that's everything we need to define it. We don't need a second or third reference. We're just going to click OK. And there's our plane. It wouldn't actually let you insert the plane. It wouldn't let, if you clicked OK and you were missing something and it wasn't fully defined, you'd get an error message and it would say you need to fill this in. So that kind of helps. It's hard to actually create a plane that is not fully defined. It's getting it defined how you want it that I think is often really the tricky part. So now we're going to sketch these pockets, which are kind of a real pain, but step 9 on page 729. So we're going to select that plane, we've got it selected here, and we're going to do a new sketch on that plane. And let's go normal to that sketch so we can see what we're doing. So we want to use the dynamic mirror tool, and we're going to sketch the profile that is shown in this picture. And this is where things always get kind of hairy here. We're going to do, maybe this time we'll actually be able to do it. Maybe it won't be problematic for me. So we're going to do a horizontal center line. We're going to do, oops, a vertical center line. And then we're going to do one more sort of angled out here, and we're going to define that angle in a second. So that's going to be, let's see. So let's use our dynamic mirror tool, which is, where is that? I think we have to go to tools. Yeah, we have to go to tools and then sketch tools and dynamic mirror. I don't have it in my quick tool selection bar up there. So if everyone sees where that is, tools to sketch tools to dynamic mirror. We want to click on that. And we need to select the line we want to mirror about, which is going to be this horizontal center line down here. Alright, so now when we start sketching, you can see when you're dynamic mirroring around a center line, you'll see these two little parallel lines on either end of that center line, and that means that that's the line you're mirroring around. Alright, so we're going to do a line here. Let's see if we can make this work. I'm going to start here a little bit away from that middle sort of angled center line. And I'm going to go up like so. And now we want to add a relation to this. We're going to make it parallel to that angled center line. There we go. So this is a little bit finicky. I'm trying a new tactic this time because usually I just give up at this point. And actually I made that way too long too. Let's drag that in a little ways. Alright, and then we're going to add a dimension. So the book says that the dimension, the angle of that actual line that we just drew to the first center line that we're mirroring around is defined. So it's not the angle between the angled center line, it's the angle to that actual line. There is a difference, believe it or not. So, and that should be 30 degrees. And weirdly enough, it actually would be the same angle if we tried defining this. It will also be 30 degrees, but we don't want to put the dimension on there, and you'll kind of see why if you don't do it correctly the first time. It's a little weird. So then this distance between these two lines here, the two parallel lines that we defined a minute ago, is going to be 0.045. Okay, there we go. And let's see. Okay, I think what I always have trouble with is getting this fully defined because the book is just really confusing about how they tell you to do it. But we're going to do a couple of little arcs here, and they're going to be tangent arcs. So we're going to start here, and we're going to go down to this line that we're mirroring around, and then we're actually going to add another relation. See how these two arcs are tangent to the line they come off of, but they're not tangent to each other. There's kind of a little point there. So we're going to make them tangent to each other. And we already have them both selected here. I'm just going to click tangent. And there we go. Alright. And then we're going to do another tangent arc here. And let's just go like this. Let's just go here. Now it looks like a heart. Oops. So let's try and drag these. Oops, that's not going to work out very well. So let's add a relation here. So we want these two to actually be tangent to each other. Now that's not how I want it to go. Alright, I'm going to start over there. That arc didn't go the way I wanted it. So I think we don't want a tangent arc. Let's just do a 3-point arc. It's just going to come off of here. And it's going to go to here. Okay, there we go. And then again, we want these two arcs here to be tangent to each other as well. And we want this radius to be 1.5. So let's add that in. Okay. Oops. All right. And then we are going to fillet these corners here. So let's see. How do we? Here we go. So this is the fillet tool right here, the sketch fillet. We've only done extruded fillets so far. We're going to do a sketch fillet on these corners. And it should, I mean, it's still dynamic mirroring, but we're going to go ahead and do that. And then we need to give it a radius. That's over in this box here. And that radius is going to be 0.063. 0.063. That didn't work quite how I wanted it to. Just gotta put it here. Okay. And then this actually should also be 0.063. We didn't use the fillet tool to make those ones. So let's just use the dimension tool to give it a radius. Alright. We're getting somewhere. Let's try dragging this closer to the middle here, like that. Okay. So we want these arcs to be concentric with the outside of our donut shape here. So we're going to give those a concentric relation. We're going to go up to add a relation. And we're going to click that arc right there. We're going to click this line here. We want to get rid of this point. And we're going to make it concentric. Now it's fully defined, but we also have an issue here because this doesn't quite look like the book. Maybe it does. It's pretty close. Let's call it good. It's fully defined. So now what we're going to do with this sketch is we're going to use the circular sketch pattern to make these little pizza cutouts all the way around. So we're going to do 6 of them. And we're going to do under linear sketch pattern, you can select circular sketch pattern. And let's see. So on page 729 in the book, let's see, does it tell you how to? Okay, no, it doesn't explain it. So we're just going to go, we're going to do 360 degrees, equal spacing. We want 6 instances. And then entities to pattern, we need to select our shape we just drew here. So I'm just clicking each line one at a time, which is not the easiest way, but I started, so I'm going to follow through. Okay. So now you should see 6 little pieces of pizza here. And then you can click OK. Is anyone still with me? Still following a little bit? No, maybe. Alright. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And now we have our 6 pieces of pizza on our new plane here. So if you look at it from the side, they're kind of floating above that shape. And we're going to do an extruded cut of those. So it's actually going to cut into our flying saucer. So, and that's on the bottom of page 729. Um, we're going to go over to our Features tab. We're going to do Extruded Cut. From Sketch Plane, we're going to go, the direction is going to be offset from surface. And then the surface is going to be face 1, which, let's see, is the bottom face of your part. So you want to flip it over like so and click on that bottom face there. So, and then it's going to be offset a certain distance. So we need to put that distance in our box right here. And that's going to be 0.125 inches. Oops, 0.125. And that's everything. You should be able to see your cut, kind of these yellow previews coming up. And if everything looks right, you can go ahead and click OK. So now you've got this shape here with these little pizza slices out of it. It's a flying pizza saucer now, I guess. I don't know. So then we'll go over to the next page. And real quick, they ask you to add a bunch of fillets. And that's pretty self-explanatory. So I'm not going to go over that. I'm not even sure if anyone's still following along. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up this exercise. But hopefully you can watch this at your leisure and go through it and model this shape on your own time if you weren't able to do it today. So whatever you've got so far, even if you weren't able to follow the whole thing, go ahead and save it just to make it easier on yourself. And watch this again when you have time and see how far you can get. All right, any questions at this point? Okay. Sounds good. All right. Cool. If nobody else has anything, I guess there's a couple people who want to talk to me after, and we'll go ahead and wrap up here. All right. So if you... What was that? Sorry. Oh, okay. Have a good night, everyone. I'll talk to you later. Hopefully see some of you Wednesday. If whoever wanted to talk to me wants to pop over to my conference room, I'll go right over there too. So, all right.
See you Wednesday.
Yep.